A young Australian girl is reported missing by her father to police in October 2010 in Hickory, North Carolina. Her stepmother plants a ransom note demanding $1 million on her father's truck. To make matters even more horrifying, Zara has bone cancer and can't miss even a single dose of medication, so authorities in the community race against the clock and search tirelessly for any clues of the missing girl. When police question her stepmother, she fails a polygraph test, and they fear that the young girl's disappearance may have been a homicide. Tonight's story is about the suspected killer, as well as shining light on the horrifying events that an innocent girl with a severe illness suffered at the hands of a person she trusted the most. So tonight, I introduce you to the suspected killer dubbed the most evil stepmother, Elisa Fairchild. Born Elisa Fairchild in 1968 in Burke County, North Carolina, United States. She is called Lisa by everyone who is close to her, including her parents, textile factory workers Marshall and Sylvia, and her two sisters. She's the middle child and has a difficult relationship with her mother. Her mum is a disciplinarian, while the father dotes on her. As she approaches her teenage years, she begins talking back and swearing at her mother, who slaps her repeatedly as punishment. In a later interview with her aunt, she claims that while her mother was abusive and enjoyed disciplining her daughter, it was considered normal for the time and in the town. No child backchatted their parents, or else there'd be hell to pay. In school, Elisa is popular. Those who know Elisa describe her as an attractive high school student who's manipulative, cunning, insecure, and also struggling with obesity. Despite putting on more weight as she gets older, men are drawn to her personality and good looks. Her high school sweetheart is Jerry Winkler. Although they date much of their high school years, they eventually lose touch when they drop out of school. And not long after, she dates a co-worker and becomes pregnant soon after. The couple have a daughter named Amber, but it's not long before she's abandoned by Amber's father and is left to raise little Amber alone. Barely able to make ends meet and being a teenage mother, Elisa does the best she can to raise her daughter and works 3 jobs to support her. A few months go by. Elisa's filling up at a gas station when she bumps into a former boyfriend, Jerry, who's also stopped in for gas. The two get to talking and arrange to catch up, and it's not long before the two rekindle their former off-and-on relationship. And just a week later, Jerry proposes to Elisa. They're both 17 years old at this point, and they need their parents' permissions in order to marry. Jerry's parents are the old-fashioned type and would need more convincing to give their blessing for their marriage. It proves a very difficult task, so Elisa comes up with a cunning plan. She convinces Jerry to force a blood test to convince his parents that he is the father of Amber, Elisa's daughter, and it proves successful. The two marry on September 14, 1985, just months after meeting, and they move to Lenwa, North Carolina. The marriage and care of a child starts to weigh down heavily on Jerry, and he eventually leaves Elisa. Jerry admits to his father that the blood test was false, and his father requests a North Carolina judge to grant an annulment, ending 4 months of marriage. Elisa is once again alone. This takes a massive toll on her, affecting her self-confidence, self-esteem and trust in other people, especially men. And after a series of rejections and abandonments, a new Elisa emerges, one who is cold, disconnected, and selfish. She moves south to Gaffney, a small town in South Carolina. Nearly a year later, she meets Joseph Proctor, a survivor of a near-fatal car accident who walks with a limp as a result, and is 9 years her senior. Elisa and Joseph date for a few months before becoming engaged, as Elisa announces she's pregnant. Joseph, a man with old values, believes in marriage before children, and the two marry on September 5, 1987, a few months before their son Douglas was born. Elisa is now 19, and her marriage is rocky. She's not able to let Joseph in emotionally, a characteristic that Joseph's mother's observed, and as she gets to know Elisa, she quickly turns against her son and her daughter-in-law's union. About a year after the marriage, little Brittany is born. In need of a larger home, the family move into one of the rental properties of Joseph's mother. But after a series of heated arguments between Elisa and Joseph, property was being damaged in the home, and in April 1989, Joseph's mother requests a restraining order. The couple eventually reconcile, and Joseph's mother drops the complaint. The marriage appears to be smooth until Christmas Day in 1990, when Elisa walks out on Joseph, taking all 3 children with her. Almost immediately, Joseph and Elisa enter a messy custody battle, in which Elisa gets full custody of Amber and Brittany, and Joseph gets custody of Douglas. The two's divorce is finalised in early 1992, with Elisa being awarded a large settlement. Elisa has no remorse and blows all the money on alcohol and drugs. But Elisa knows these funds will run out eventually, so she plans her next move. Able to adapt to any environment, Elisa is on the prowl at a local Tri-County bar near her Gaffney residence, and it's not long before she attracts young textile trader Aaron Harris Jr., who falls head over heels with Elisa. The two marry just a month later on April 17, 1992, and Elisa, along with her 2 daughters, move into Aaron's home. Elisa becomes a stay-at-home mother, but starts to feel trapped and starts taking her frustrations out on Aaron, who works longer hours to provide for his new family. She eventually reaches her tipping point and does something that is both heartless and sickening. She starts to abuse her own daughters as a trigger to leave the family home to live out a secret life of dealing drugs and sleeping around under the guise of cooling off. The frequency of the abuse increases, leading to more and more fights between Aaron and Elisa, as Aaron often comes to the daughter's aid. He eventually turns to his younger brother James, who advises him to take a few days apart from Elisa and to stay with him. Elisa doesn't take the news well, and when Aaron returns to his home, he finds that all their belongings and his new family are now gone. Elisa goes into hiding with her daughters somewhere near East Gaffney, after pawning all Aaron's belongings. It's now fall of 1994. Elisa's been living in East Gaffney in a residency that she pays cash for. The landlord and neighbour is Margie Putnam, a retired older lady. She often babysits for Elisa, while Elisa is out for days at a time. But opportunity strikes again, and this time, the victim is Margie's deaf son, Daryl Putnam. Daryl is 30 years old, never married, and due to his disability, has been unlucky in love. Margie knows that Daryl has been longing for his very own family since he was a child. His father walked out on them when he was a young kid, after learning about his hearing disability. Margie became a single mother overnight, and as a result, is very protective of her only son. She's unaware of Elisa's cruel intentions, so when she contacts her son and tells him she's found the perfect girl for him, Daryl trusts his mother's judgment and agrees to go on a date organised by her at a local bar in nearby Gaffney. Elisa turns on the charm when the two meet for the first time, but in addition to the charm, she also tells Daryl that Amber, who's now 8 years old, has cancer. After seeing each other a few more times, Elisa and her daughters move into Daryl's home within weeks after meeting each other. The two marry on February 4th, 1995, despite not having divorced Aaron Harris, and a fact that Elisa has kept from Daryl. It's only a matter of weeks before Elisa and Daryl's relationship begins to deteriorate. Elisa continues to live her double life, so she finds any excuse to leave the family home, including purposely abusing her own daughters and creating arguments with Daryl. Meanwhile, Elisa's mother isn't doing too well and eventually dies of cancer. She had ballooned to more than 300 pounds before eventually succumbing to the illness. The loss of her mother takes a massive toll on Elisa, and she starts to carelessly sleep with other men. She's eventually caught when Daryl walks in early from work one afternoon to catch her in their marriage bed with another man. Daryl is distraught, and without thinking, he walks straight out of the home and over to his mother's place. He eventually returns to the family home a few days later to find that all his belongings are taken, including a set of his expensive hearing aids. Elisa moves back to Lenoir, North Carolina. Meanwhile, Aaron Harris files for divorce, which is eventually granted after the courts are unable to get hold of Elisa. As soon as she's back in Lenoir, she starts dating Jeffrey Allred, and after 2 years of dating, on October 3rd, 1997, they tie the knot. Elisa is still married to Daryl Putnam of Gaffney, South Carolina, and again, fails to mention her marriage or previous marriages to the new beau. And like her last few relationships, the marriage is rocky, but this time, she steps up her violent rampages by taking it out on Jeffrey, often beating him with a baseball bat, and on one occasion, threw rocks at him during a heated altercation, rendering him unconscious for a few minutes. But in a reverse series of events, it's Jeffrey this time that leaves Elisa and her daughters. As she heads to a local Walmart with her two daughters one evening, Jeffrey grabs a packed suitcase from the closet, gets into his truck, and drives in the opposite direction, never to be seen again. Elisa returns home, and once she learns of Jeffrey's betrayal, she's furious. She tries everything possible to try and find him, so much as reporting him missing to local police and driving around all day and night trying to locate him in motels and bars, but this ultimately proves unsuccessful, and Elisa eventually moves back to Gaffney, South Carolina. She's now 30 years old and has been married 5 times, but now sets her sight on Gaffney local Aaron Young, a young 20-year-old man and husband, number 6. They marry on August 8, 1998. Aaron had suffered from rickets as a child, a bone disease caused by poor nutrition that can cause skeletal deformities. He had several operations on his left leg, and there was a steel rod in the other, a condition that made him self-conscious and shy. This is the first time that a female has taken attention in Aaron, so was immediately smitten. Aaron is described as a responsible kid, and when he married Elisa, his family saw that he took being married seriously and was a stable influence to the daughters. However, to keep living her secret life, Elisa conspires with others and starts to sell and traffic prescription drugs such as oxycodone, hydrocodone, and alprazolam. And it was during their marriage that Elisa discovers the internet. She would spend long hours in front of a computer, socializing with a number of people in chat rooms, and adopted a gothic persona. She gets tattoos and changes her hair color from blonde to black with fire engine red streaks. She wears black clothes and to top it off, black lipstick and nail polish. Meanwhile, on November 22nd, 1999, Daryl Putnam manages to get his marriage to Elisa annulled by the courts after Elisa fails to appear. Growing tired of Elisa's absence in raising their 2 daughters, Aaron confronts Elisa about her spending too much time on the computer. Elisa is socializing with other men and meets up with them in nearby cars and public locations while her young husband is caring for her daughters at home, none the wiser. Elisa is eventually caught when her mother-in-law witnesses her kissing another man in a car in 2007. And when Aaron confronts her after learning of the news from his mother, she leaves Aaron, taking her 2 daughters with her. She moves back in with her dad in Hickory, North Carolina, and immerses herself in the online world more and more. In early 2008, she meets a man called Adam Baker from Australia. They meet through a website called IMVU, a virtual chat world. He's the father of 8-year-old Zara Baker, his only child and a cancer patient, having been diagnosed with bone cancer in 2005 and losing her leg due to a bout of lung cancer. In addition to this, she's also hearing impaired and needs hearing aids to be able to hear, albeit poorly. Adam lives at home with his parents, who are also there to help care for Zara while he works in the sugar mills. Adam and Elisa agree to meet in person for the very first time. Just months later after meeting, Elisa makes a long 36-hour flight to Brisbane, Australia, the capital of Queensland. But prior to leaving, she lets her father know that she's going to Australia and won't be returning. Elisa and Adam meet at Brisbane Airport for the very first time, and within weeks, They tie the knot in his family backyard on July 8, 2008 in Gairu, while still being married to Aaron Young. Elisa lives in the small town with a new husband and becomes the surrogate mother to young Zara, taking exceptional care of her and becoming the mother she's always longed for after her biological mother walked out on them when she was born. But even though Adam has a daughter who's severely ill, Elisa manages to convince Adam to relocate to the US with her. Adam announces the news to his family, and his family become very concerned. Zara's medical treatments are free in Australia, but treatments of the sort aren't free in the US, nor is healthcare. Adam talks to Elisa about his family's concerns, but Elisa assures him that she'll take care of the expenses in the US as she has a very healthy savings account, and that her father is also very wealthy too. And just weeks later, Elisa, Adam and Zara head to Hickory, North Carolina and move in with Elisa's dad. And only in a matter of a few weeks, history repeats itself. Elisa becomes violent towards Zara. In addition to this, Elisa's supposed healthy savings account is false, and the family are faced with mounting debt due to Zara's medical expenses. They borrow money from Elisa's family, but after becoming estranged, failing to pay them back, they resort to forging checks, robbery, and selling prescription drugs. Meanwhile, Elisa continues to traffic prescription drugs between the Carolinas, and the duo sell them out of maintained homes in Granite Falls and Hudson, and even from her own father's home in Hickory. Elisa also continues to spend long hours on the internet, maintaining contact with husband and former partner Aaron Young through IMVU, the chat website she had met Adam in. When Adam learns of this and confronts her, she tells him that Aaron's her brother and fails to disclose her new marriage or family with Aaron. Continued abuse of Zara causes Marshall, Elisa's dad, to kick not only Elisa out, but Adam and his daughter Zara. He also reports Elisa and Adam to Child Protective Services. They move out to another home in Hickory, but when Marshall tries to keep tabs on Zara's safety, CPS refuses to disclose any information to him. Zara is enrolled in Hudson Elementary School in August of 2010, but after teachers report bruises and a black eye on Zara to Child Protective Services, her parents pull her out of school and tell authorities that the allegations are false and that they'll be homeschooling Zara from now on. Elisa's aunt Buzzy visits the family in early September after hearing about Zara feeling ill. She comes over with some groceries and leaves them with some home remedies to try and make Zara more comfortable. This is the last time she'll see Zara alive. After not responding to her calls on September 24, 2009, Elisa goes to Zara's bedroom where she finds her unresponsive in bed. She checks on her. She's not breathing, so Elisa performs CPR, but it's too late. Zara has passed away. The cause? A fatal illness. But what happens next is not only unimaginable, but the thought of it is sickening and remains the subject of much controversy, as detectives are unable to determine beyond reasonable doubt what actually happened and by who. Zara's body is dismembered in the upstairs bathtub using utensils from the kitchen and placed into garbage bags. Evidence suggests that Zara's remains are disposed of by both Elisa and Adam in multiple remote locations in the county of Catawba and neighbouring Caldwell. 2 weeks pass before Elisa and Adam make any contact with authorities about Zara, and knowing that members of their family and eventually Child Protective Services will come looking for Zara due to her absence, the Bakers come up with an elaborate scheme. They decide to fake Elisa's kidnapping. Elisa writes a ransom note, but instead of it being for Zara's return, the note will demand $1 million for Adam's boss's daughter, Mark Coffey, in a case of mistaken identity by these supposed kidnappers, and that Zara was taken as a result. So on October 9, 2010, the scene is set. Mark Coffey and his daughter are invited over to Elisa and Adam's home in Hickory. They attend and return home sometime later. Elisa then starts a mulch fire in the backyard and calls 911 at 2 a.m. The fire department arrive and put out the blaze, but find a ransom note on the windscreen of Adam's car. Mr. Coffey and his daughter are made aware of the ransom note, and police advise them to take extra precaution. In addition, Elisa and Adam report that at 2:30 a.m. when they checked on little Zara, she was in her room and unharmed. The second call to 911 is made the next day. It's Adam. He calmly tells the dispatcher that his daughter's missing. He explains about the fire the day before and suspects that it was done to distract the family in order to take Zara. He also explains about the ransom note, that it was for his boss's daughter, and that Zara may have been taken by accident.
Hickory Police 911, where's your emergency?
Yeah, my daughter is missing.
I'm sorry? Your daughter's missing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what's your address?
The police were out here last night. They were firing a ransom note for my boss's daughter. I got up a little while ago, and it appears they took my daughter instead of my boss's daughter.
Okay, how old's your daughter?
She's 10. She's handicapped. She has a prosthetic leg, so that...
How long has she been missing?
We checked in there last night about 2:30, and she was there, and all this happened last night about 5 o'clock, so I don't know if they set a fire in the yard to distract us to go out and when they snuck in the door, or I don't know.
Due to Zara's illness, police in the community waste little time to search for the missing girl. The Bakers consent to a search of their home. Police use cadaver dogs to search the property, and dogs pick up the presence of human remains. They pick up the presence of human remains on the property, in Adam's Chevy pickup truck and in Elisa's Toyota Camry. Police take swabs to test it for the presence of blood. While the search for missing Zara is on, Adam and Elisa are both arrested by county police for unrelated charges: identity theft, aggravated assault, burglary, drug trafficking, check forgery, and possession of illegal firearms, as well as having stolen items in their possession. Elisa is also charged for multiple cases of bigamy, and while in custody, police listen to the 911 recording of when Adam called to report Zara missing, and he becomes a prime suspect of a disappearance due to his calm tone on the phone. But with little evidence to support this theory, they drop the charges. But after failing to satisfy detectives' inquiries, police conduct a polygraph test which Elisa fails. This is the breakthrough police have been hoping for, and they question her about Zara's disappearance. Elisa comes clean about the ransom note and where to find Zara's prosthetic leg. Police locate the leg and confirm it belongs to Zara. The question police now have is if Zara is still alive, but even the most novice of police officers know the answer to this question. Elisa eventually comes clean about Zara's death and accuses Adam of being responsible for the dismemberment of Zara, so is unable to tell police where Zara's remains are. Police continued their investigation and discovered that on September 25th, Elisa's cell phone signal bounces off a tower in a remote part of Caldwell County, while at the exact same time, Adam's cell phone bounces off a tower in Conover, opposite ends of Hickory. Adam works in Conover, so is able to explain his reason for being there, but despite evidence, Elisa denies being in Caldwell County at the time. After police search these areas, police find Zara's remains in both these locations. They comb wooded areas and even go as far as draining a pond in the attempts to recover more remains. Police charge Elisa with second-degree murder of Zara Baker and sentence her to 18 years in jail, narrowly avoiding the death penalty. And while Adam is found not guilty of his daughter's death, he is deported back to Australia due to the other charges laid against him. During Elisa's trial, her own daughter Brittany comes forward and testifies that her mother had come to her and complained that her hand hurt too much after hitting Zara as often as she did. She also stated that Zara lived in very poor conditions and was kept in an uninsulated attic without heating or cooling. Zara's skull is eventually found in April of 2012. Unfortunately, we'll never know what truly happened to Zara, or who was responsible for her death and dismemberment. The only thing we know is that Zara Baker will never get the chance to rest in peace. But in honour of her memory, the town of Hickory opened up a park at one of the locations her remains were found at and named it after her. And that brings us to the end of the video. If you know anything about this case, please report it to the numbers listed below in the description.